Isolines are lines that connect points of equal value of some sort. When we're doing contour maps, our isolines are going to be connecting points of equal elevation. Here we have a temperature field map. So our isolines here are going to connect points of equal temperature. So all of these dots represent locations with the temperature written next to them. It asks us to draw the isotherm, which just means the isoline for a temperature, for 20, 22, 24, and 26 degrees Celsius. So we're going to do this one at a time. If we start with 20, first thing we're going to do is look for all of the numbers that are 20, which in this case is just that one. So 20 isoline is going to be a line that separates the 20 from everything else. And when I do that line, there's only the 120, and my isolines need to reach the end of the edge of the map or form an enclosed circle. So when I do this, this one is just going to reach the edge of the map. And if I look at this, all the numbers that are on one side of the line are greater than 20. Anything that's less than 20 would be on this side of the line. So our isolines are going to go through all of the points that are labeled with that value, and they're going to separate everything that's higher from everything that's lower. So that's the 20 isoline. When I go to do the 22, I'm going to look, and here's a 22, here's a 22, here's a 22, here's a 22, and here's a 22. Now if we look, I've got a 24 and a 21. I know that 22 is between 24 and 21, which means there has to be a 22 somewhere in between the two, even though it's not labeled. So I'm going to interpolate somewhere between the 21 and 24, there's a 22, and my isoline is going to have to go through that point. So I'm going to end up connecting all of the points that are equal to 22, making sure that everything that is smaller than 22 stays on one side of the line, and everything that's greater than 22 stays on the other side of the line. So again, I went around the 21 so that everything over here is less than 22, and everything up here is greater than 22. Now for the 24 isoline, I've got a 24 here, here, and here, and here, and here, and here. So again, I'm going to be connecting all of those points, making sure that everything that's less than 24 stays to one side of it. Less than 24 stays on one side, greater than 24 on the other. 23 is less than 24, so I'm going to keep it on that side. And again, my isolines need to reach the edge of the map, or they could end up forming enclosed circles. All right, 26, I have a 26 here, and here, and here. I've got 27 and 25. So again, I know 26 is between 25 and 27, so there has to be a 26 somewhere in there. So when I go and I connect the 26s, I'm not going to just connect them in that loop, because then I'd have 25 and 27 both on the same side of the line. So I'm going to continue that line up here because I know there's a 26 there. And then this one I could continue to the edge of the map, or I can also make it a closed loop. So now everything outside that line is less than 26, and everything inside the line is greater than 26. All right, so on the back, I have a couple more. This one asks me to draw the 10, 15, 20, and 25 isotherms. So I can do the exact same thing that I did. Sometimes I find it helpful to use color to help me with this. So when it asks me to draw the 10-degree isotherm, I'm gonna say, okay, this is less than 10, less than 10. This is my actual 10, my actual 10. Less than 10, less than 10. So when I go to draw my isoline, I know it needs to go through the two numbers that are actually 10, and then it's going to separate the things that are less than 10 from the things that are greater than 10. So when I draw this, I'm going to separate everything that I had shaded purple from everything that is not shaded, because everything that was shaded was less than 10, and everything that's not shaded is greater than 10. So if I'm doing that, I would use a different color to kind of guide me for each thing, and I might use pink for the next one for 15. So now I'm going to shade everything that I've already done, things that are 10 or less, but the 11 to 15, here's an 11, here's a 13, here's a 15 itself, a 15, less than 15, and less than 15. So I'm shading everything that's less than 15. And then again, my isoline is going to separate the things that are less than 15 that I shaded from the things that are greater than 15 that I didn't shade, going through the numbers that are 15 itself. Okay, so for 20, here's a 17, here's a 20, here's a 20, 16 is less, 18 is less, 17, here's a 20, 16 is less, here's another 20. So again, I'm going to go through the actual 20s, separating the shaded that were less from the non-shaded that were greater. And then 25, there's nothing here that's greater than 25. So basically I just need to make sure that I go through all of the 25s and don't trap any of the other numbers on the other side of that ISO line. So when they're lined up nicely like this, it can be a little bit easier, but sometimes our points are just going to be scattered. So in that case, it's important to make sure you're actually looking very carefully so that you don't miss anything. So here I'm going to be looking for the 18 ISO line. So here's an actual 18, an actual 18, an actual 18, an actual 18. Here I got 17, it's less. If I look here, I have nothing else that is 18 or smaller. So again, I'm just going to go through my 18s, separating all of the shaded things from the unshaded. And now I'm drawing the 20 ISO line. So here's a 20, here's 19, 19, here's another 20, a 19, a 19, a 20, and a 20, and all of those are greater. So again, I'm going to connect all of the 20s, separating my shaded from my unshaded. And then for the 22 isotherm, less than 22, here, this one's an actual 22, actual 22, actual 22, actual 22, and here I have a 23. So my 22 needs to separate those that are greater than 22, the 23, from those that are less than 22. So again, I need to make sure that my line goes through all of the points that are labeled with that actual number and separates everything that's smaller from everything that is larger than that number. On the lab that you're going to be doing, there are no dots shown on this one. So we're going to assume that the dot is at the center of each of these numbers. So if I look at the directions, it says to shade over all the numbers between 160 and 169 with purple. So here I've got 169, 166, 165, 63, 62, 61, 160, 167, 164, 162, smaller, 162, and I don't see any other 160 anythings. So when I go to draw my ISO line, I need to make sure that I am separating everything that's shaded from everything that I haven't shaded yet. Now, because I'm drawing the 160 ISO line, I need to make sure that my line goes through the 160 and around the numbers that are not 160. So it's separating, it goes through every number that's 160, and then everything that's greater than 160, which is shaded, other than the actual 160, is on one side of the line. Everything that's unshaded is on the other. And then you're going to continue doing that with the numbers between 150 and 159 with blue, and then drawing the 150, etc. It does ask you when you're done to to finish the shading. So you would end up with all of this area shaded in purple. Now again, shaded in, so you should still be able to read the numbers through your shading, but that's just going to kind of show you that everything in this region is between 160 and 169. So all of your lines should be separating those different colors that are shaded in.